I was just sitting here doing my usual thing and I decided to do some 4coder work and I squashed these four bugs here just because they looked easy and I was sniping them off the list of easy things. I'll reorder them real quick because I want to keep it. I don't really care about what order I issued them in. I care more about which are unfinished. So, there we go. Only 6 left to do and I'm currently working on this one. I hope to get all of these done before I release tomorrow, but I have to at least get, some of them done. Actually, none of these are totally critical. This one's like a proper bug, and this one's a proper bug. Um, this is also a pretty big one, so maybe I should hope to get that done. This could be a pretty deep problem, I'm not sure yet. But anyways, I'm working on this one. And you saw that there were like 4 or 5 that I've already done today. I think those 4 right there. So we didn't get those on stream, but I decided, hey, while I'm sitting here doing this, let me go on for an hour and a half or so. All right. So let's see. It's gonna be in this file. Like always, building up tons of files that are open, and I actually have them all. I don't mind closing it. It just affects everything. So the plan is when I press go wacky, or I press backspace actually. So don't want the live file. There we go. I want first of all to just bug I see it happening. Yeah, okay. So it looks like when I hit shift backspace, something's going weird. So I want to breakpoint there. Alright, so I want a situation where state dot what I want to do is say if this does not equal 0. Hopefully that I don't get that when I press shift. Yeah, I don't. I didn't think I would, and then backspace should trigger. Okay. Somewhere in there, things go a little bit wonky. UI file field input takes my terminate plus terminate. So this could be I changed. Take a look. Come in back. Totally does. Then backspace. String size 0. Change size by if character. Yes. Put a 0 string there. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing T. Oh, it didn't re-render? That the problem. Yes, that's the problem. So, okay, what is that going into that decision to not render? Shift back. See. Let's see, let's see. More time, shift backspace, do main file box, input date. It was fairly. Step says, made a change, yes, backspace. Result comes 0. Zero. Uh, Result. Clicked anything. Get to here. Okay, so that pretty clearly shows didn't do anything that would cause a draw, but what happens when backspace does cause a draw? Whoops. So I do file field input. Change. Comes out 0 here anyway. Okay, so the result is coming out of this 0, which means maybe redraw's already been set by a previous thing. I want to see that break there. Instead, I want breakpoints when it happens. one of these guys is causing backspace to redraw, but isn't causing it normal um, or for shift backspace by inserting a character. Boom. Oh, okay, so I was relying on the fact here that when I look up in the map, see that backspace, okay, so what I need to do is say interactive view, your bug is actually a bit stupid because I was a bit hacky when I made this work in the first place, but that's fine. Let's just look for mention backspace. This, yeah, I want to add to this one right here. What like the that if it's modifier shift, also a command left, right, up, down. So hacky when the new stuff happens. Let's get that action. Don't just say stupid again. Okay. Interesting. I see. Okay, so that's not enough anymore. So it's 6 times 4. That's 24. Uh, and I force it to have ratio. So if I 24 divided by 8 or 25 by 7. Let's test it a little bit close to 4. 4 times 8 is 2 to the times 2 to the 4. No, that's 32. Gotcha. All right. There's another one. Let's see. I'm gonna fix this one next. Scrolls with mouse off Windows. That one's about this little deal. I open this file up twice. If I highlight this window by putting my mouse on it, then the scroll wheel applies here, even though the other window is the active one, right? I can go over here and I can do this. If I go off the 4coder window and I scroll, it still does that one. I don't really want it to do that. Right? So video is first, how do I control whether I scroll at all? Panel equals mouse panel. And do we want to say say the lines of put summary. All right, and mouse data to mouse data is and mouse data dot auto dot cool. All right, next detail. The Lexer. Soon file open same file. That's the one I want. Okay. So the idea here is if I open this basic test file that I have, I come over here and I switch to that file, use the list of opened files to bring it up again, you will see that it basically looks the same. The command map is correct, so I have the same stop spots as I have over here, which if it's a normal text file, you don't get that. So there's two different possible stop spots that I could get, and this shows that it's using the correct command map. But I don't have all of the correct settings, because you'll see that on the left, lines don't wrap, and on the right they do. So my question for me, why? What I want to do is I want to get it from fact, which alright. So I have come in here, I look up and see if this file can be found, and it can. So good shape. I do new view. It's the file. Still haven't touched the view. We still haven't touched the file at all. View set file. View. Right, I'm guessing the line wrap information word here because I'm annoying myself. Yes. Unwrapped lines. All of the other settings actually are definitely being preserved now. The problem is that line wrapping isn't in that set of settings, and there's a particularly tough, annoying reason why that is. Reason being that here's a question for me. The file state can buffer line widths. It does contain line right in the buffer now, which means each view can decide independently whether or not it's going to wrap lines. And I guess I just want it to act as a default in the file that I can set, and it'll read from that, and then you can switch one view to be different from that default. But I want there to be a default that's stored within the file so that anything you open, anytime you open that file, the view goes to the default, because normally you don't change that haphazard, right? It's not super brilliant, not super beautiful, but that's what I've got. There it is. So when I switch to rad lines, yeah, this goes to the view and says do we need to do some work? I want to take the file settings and set app lines to 0. Put that up. Then, whenever I open right, and so now it's just when I do view set file, I want to set the use unwrapped lines variable to the files lines. That's about the best I think I can do, unless I decide to sync them all up so that views can't be separate from one another. Awesome. That should also mean that if I toggle line wraps, then that the files wrap line. All right. Next up, show white space isn't working. Toggle show white space. I'll bet that's just in the raw file loaded section. When we go at curve all over, recognize out my declares when I arc color special space colors. That exists, but give me an error. Highlight the name. Highlight white color. Now, come down here and see when I'm deciding whether or not stuff before any of that. Here, if item get it I with ID. Char white space. Char item diff ID. Then draw a rectangle on the target. This rectangle should just be correct. Char. Char. Right. Draw. Highlight white color. Do is put on the junk highlighting. Just highlight color. So what I really want to do is say, look, have white space. Color. Color equals it's only going to be here. That for the junk, so I'll stick with that standard because it makes sense. There we go. Now you're just highlighting everything. That's not what I wanted. Highlight color. Oh, I see. Highlight color gets set once and stays set. This color. We'll set that. Say, highlight color equals. Now, if didn't pick another color for it, might say. Then when we get down here, if highlighted color, have this extra thing that gets zeroed every single time. I still don't seem to be able to toggle it, but it's working. Now, I bet the reason I can't toggle it is because not conditioning that on. So show white space is considered a view setting. That's fair enough. It can be a view setting if it wants. So white space. Alright, so that's back. Man, I've only been at it for like 30 minutes or so, and this is dwindling. But now we're getting down to the ones that are going to take some proper time. So steady view in 2-panel editing of same file will come last, I think, because that, although a little easier than this one, I believe that this Lexer thing might be related to, at least partially related to, this bug I just found in here with the highlight color thing. Expect what's happening is, let's say, color row by, see if that helps. So the example file that's causing that pretty consistently is, actually it's, we can have a copy of it in here. I'll do. There's where it used to be. Now it's not making the whole thing red anymore. Not even consistently red there, so we should work on that. We can also see there's some kind of problem with parsing the results of the error define. So FUCon has asked an interesting question, and I believe it deserves a response. So I will pull this up and show a few things. Don't go spreading this word around because this isn't a huge promise, but it's just a thought I've been having for a while about 4coder and the purpose that it plays for most people and how I think I can make it more useful. So you can see that it's got diff and clock are both listed here. This being the difference between files, this being count lines of code. And the reason I've just put those in as things I want to in 4coder is for a few things. First of all, from 4coder you might want to do these things because these are things programmers do once in a while. So just having them in your editor means you don't switch to the command line to do things that you do a lot. But there's something more interesting going on there than just that, because these are also just useful for, like, especially diff is a useful tool that the editor will take advantage of and use the data from. So these are, like, in my mind, singular sort of algorithms that I can easily parcel out by themselves, and they'll behave as a supplement to things in 4coder. 4coder will use them to do certain interesting things. But I've also come up with the idea that what if I didn't have to have crazy stuff like oh, it's under here. What if I didn't have to have this 11 megabyte executable for counting lines, right? Because this is what you get normally when you get count lines of code. Is you get something that's got more features in it than what you know how to use or really care to use for most purposes, and so it's like super gigantic compared to what it needs to be. So I got thinking, isn't it annoying how I have to get this everywhere I set up my programming system? What if 4coder was a package that came with all the things programmers like me tend to use, like count lines of code? And then I was thinking about this fact that we're adding command line parameters. So I added this. This was not on stream, but I decided to add this, invoking special tools. The idea is you'd be able to go over here. Oops, got 4ed running, so let me. Okay, so our goal is to investigate this. I'll get to it soon. But the idea is you'll be able to go. And that would be able to count lines of code. Right? And that just do. Okay, that just, yeah. But you see what I'm saying what the idea is there, that I think that would be pretty cool because then you could just do whatever thing you wanted, diff, two files, right? So on. So not only is it an editor, but if the first thing you put in is this capital T, then you can put in whatever sub thing you want, like a sub command, and it'll behave just like a command line um, program. So instead of CLOC, you just put in that, for example, or the diff file 1, file 2, whatever you want, and it can treat those. It's got like a special like subsystem that'll kick in and go, all right, it wants to use the diff tool, reads the rest of the parameters after diff as if it's for the diff tool, and then passes them off to this one diff function. That way I can provide, when you get 4coder, it has to come with its own CLOC and its own diff anyway, right? So if it's got to come with those, I might as well make it mean that you don't need to have the other things there. So then you can just write a batch file to use the 4coder version if you want. That's a little project that I'm going to be building towards at some point down the line. And of course, another cool aspect of that is that since 4coder is going to be available on Linux, probably before I even implement that, really, that it'll be available on Linux. So by the time I implement it, it'll be like basically for free. You get one program that you can install anywhere and get the whole suite of things you might want to do as a programmer. So, thank you for the question. Now, let's take a look at this bug. File. It's under code config. Yes, there seems to be some kind of bug with parsing junk tokens reliably. Those characters are all junk. After the error, that shouldn't be junk. That shouldn't even be junk. And the fact that going to that white, so I want to figure out a few things. First of all, why does it not include the Y in the, like, why is Y being colored like that? That should be included in the junk. Second, why is it that whenever I have a junk token, the next character after it gets highlighted junk, even though, as we can see from this example, the token doesn't go that far? And then, can't I make it so that this is not a junk token because it shouldn't be? Anything on the same line as error should not be junk. Those are my several things to work on. Let's take a look at my Lexer now. I don't know if I've ever pulled up the 4CPP stuff before, but this is how the Lexer works. Alright, so I think the easiest way to isolate this will be to first of all make a proper test example. Okay. And as we've seen, testing stuff. That followed by make sure thing one thing. Okay. Now I want to, and I want to stop it when the Lexer. So that didn't catch it. Found this Elex, did I? Kill this file. X file. Alright. There we go. Okay, so this is in the parallel job, so we worker thread, which are oh, I totally forgot about the low latency stuff I mean, I didn't forget. I've just been putting it off for all the bugs, and I was about to. Yeah, I should probably, once I finish these bugs, get that working first. That's in about midway point between. And I remembered it when I was right here and I saw the update thread. Anyway, size, okay. At each point, get this step result thing. As result, no. Okay. Alright, comment. So, the result there, we were just consuming white space, but this one will probably be the one. Not white space. State is deep. Not that. Default mode. It is alpha. It is not. It is dot. It is slash. It is quote. It is single quote. Alright, some operator. Go. Is there a match? No match. Size 1. Junk. Next position is after this thing. Let this play all the way through now. That right there was this. So I think the fact that it's highlighting the last thing here, I bet that's just because we don't have. There's interesting. That down there. I think the fact that it's highlighting one pass isn't actually a bug in the Lexer. That might be a bug in the rendering thing that decides when to stop showing that. File. I is greater than or equal to start and less than. Okay. Alright. That's the way it should look. Now the only remaining question is why does the there's two remaining questions. Why actually there's a bunch of questions. The last question will be why is this an error? It shouldn't be an error. That should just be getting eaten up. But before we get to that, why does inserting a new token after this token break that thing there? Why does it suddenly start coloring that white? And I think a clue is again going to be in the renderer. Although it probably is a Lexer error. But let's take a look at the render and see why it colors things white. Because I know it has a specific reason for that, so that I can see errors coming, right? So this is saying that the index, yeah. This happens whenever we've just gone outside of a token. Right, the current token then token we're expecting, we're still in. We're outside of it, it's color. But before that, what we do is we say, look, if we start get color, color, current token, one. Okay, so this right here is saying if we are at the spot where we're now inside of the current token, then get the color we want for that token, and then we're actually waiting for the next token to happen. So this only ever happens when we have passed the end of the token and we haven't even gone past the beginning of the token. I'm a little confused. I need to put a breakpoint here, I think, so I can see how that's even possible. That seems like that should be impossible. If I figure out how it's possible, then I can figure out what's happening in the Lexer. Then I can figure junk. Start. Stack of show me all 10 of your. First token is a comment. Start by center equals that. Okay, so current token is actually the one we're currently in. So current token is the comment. But up here we're comparing against this. So white happens basically whenever we're between two tokens, which should only be white space. Right, so the reason this is here is because this is white space. If this happens, it means we're in white space, and it won't show up. I keep going. Keep track of token I all the way here. Token I is still 1. So we haven't gotten. Must be going over RNs here. Token number 2. Now, that's the error token, right? No, that's the at token. Okay. We're in between those tokens. Okay, let me keep an eye on index as well. 20. Token I is now 3. So we're looking at these two. Token is token, so it starts at 21. has a size of 6. That's where it says error. Or in the space between that and the next thing, I'm imagining. This next index is 28. We come in here. 28 is the start of this token, so we get color, get the current token. Now, junk token has a size of 8, as betting. The reason we hit here because size of 8, saying 36, 28 plus 8. So now I color it white. Okay, got it. Now, should that actually say size of 8? The next question. From the disk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. It should say size of 9. So our size is coming out 1 short. Now what I want to do is I want to walk through the Lexer again. And I want to walk through the part that's creating those pieces of junk now. First I'm looking for is to see if I have a result, and then I want to check the type of the token, which is up here. Make sure it's what I expect. So comment, no result, junk, no result, error, no result. And the next time through, switch. So, okay, so I'll take a comment. Read junk line. So it looks like our bug is somewhere in read junk line. Keep incrementing this position. Eventually we find line, right? And then we go, okay, so my final size is going to be the position that I ended at minus position I started at, 9. Correct. No slash R. Don't get that minus. Oh, it's also a -1 here. So that -1 is wrong. I don't know why it was written there, but it's wrong. Alright. So that works. Awesome. Finally, these shouldn't even be junk. Right? I should be something like read entire line, error message, or something like that. Token error message. Okay. Trying to think of a name of something I could use to jump down in here. Took comment. That. Let's rewrite this carefully. As a switch. XP. X. Macro. X. X body. Get those copied in. X body. If CPP X number. And then default. Alright. Now, in here, I think what I'd like to change is that case CPP XP error. Oh, I see. CPP XP error. Result equals CPP junk. Okay, does anyone know if a comment on an error line counts as a comment or as a part of the error message? I think I'm supposed to parse out comments still. But then coming out of the comments gonna be a bitch. So I'm going to ignore that fact and say that for now it's the same as reading a junk line. And then it'll have the only difference that the type will CPP token error message. Interesting. No result comment, no result junk, no result error thingy, no result. Come in here. Character is not white space, it's not that one of those. It's not Lex PP error because I never actually set that up to work. Okay. So where do things like that get set? State CPP Lex PP error. Open test junk view. There we go. Awesome. Alright. I gotta get this one thing done today, because if I get it done, then tomorrow I can actually make the release I promised without any known bugs. Let me just double check something. So I claimed that it won't have any known bugs. If I'm gonna claim that, I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting any that I got in the email, because I might have gotten one in the 4coder email and forgotten about it. So I want to make sure that I don't claim that if someone took the time to report a bug that I'm just do not want to claim there are no bugs in that case. That one's fixed. That one's not fixed. That one's fixed. That one's not a bug though. That's also not a bug but a problem. So I'll put it in as a do. Jumps should smooth scroll somehow. And the actual proper bug is history. Right. That one's fixed. Fixed. That one's fixed. That one's fixed. That one's fixed. That one's as good as it's getting for a while, so it's not really a bug either. This one is fixed. That's fixed. Alright. This one, that one's fixed. Stuff, and that's all too old to be relevant. So yeah, this is really the only other one, and I probably won't fix that because if you're heavily using it, that's a experimental feature that I haven't finished figuring out how I want to integrate 100% of it, actually. I mean, I showed it off at one point as pretty much working, and you can use it for basically what you normally use undo and redo for, but the history thing is like, there's details about the way the history just grows to be a massive amount of data if you heavily lean on it for no good reason, and I need some way of like properly paging data, storing it long term for people, because a lot of people want to be able to use the history, the file over a long time, over opening the editor several times, and I also need paging out so that I can handle the forgetting too long. But none of that really happens and is necessary the way I use it, and if you're using it like sort of with moderation, so I'm not too worried about it. Like anything that I consider a reasonable use of the history is working, so I'm gonna put that as actually a hard bug. Because it involves some pretty deep reorganization of details. So steady view and 2-panel editing of same file. This is the last thing I'm gonna do, and then maybe we'll take a look and see if we can't get command line stuff starting today, so that we can have a little bit of that in the new build. So let me demonstrate. So cool that everything's like working. Like line problem is gone. Once I switch to 4coder, I think the nice thing will be like every single day these things will bug me, and it'll get. I think the editor will start to get very good very fast, just because like normally over the last few months I let a lot of those little things build up as I change stuff around, and it's like, oh, that thing is not opening files quite like right. It's getting the settings janky now, and like it starts to get annoying when I started using it a lot, and I've gotten it back up to like hitting that quality bar that I want it to hit, and pretty exciting. I think once I start using this 24, well, not 24/7, but for 100% of my work that I use an editor for, should be good. Okay, so what happens is, say I'm hanging out right here. I'm looking at platform independent file name helpers, or drawing farther down. I'm looking at drawing functions, right? And I come over here and I go, alright, new lines. That left-hand view doesn't actually need to move around. Like, yes, if the position that I'm at right now is the position that I want to stay at, then that's what should happen. I should see a new line pop down, because the line that was at the top is now one farther down in the file. But that's not actually what I ever want. I want the thing on the left to continue to look like it's staying in the same spot, which means I want the view, the like physical view position, I don't want it to do this smoothly. I want this to happen in like discrete steps. I want to change it the same way I change the cursor. So when I insert this new line, all of the cursors over here, I can put the mark here and the cursor here. Every time I make one of these changes, the mark and the cursor move. I think the views need to do that too, so that it looks like the mark and the cursor will just sit still from that end of the file. But that's not too hard to do. You'll see why it's not too hard to do once you see how I'm handling the cursor and the mark. The only thing is that whenever I get into this stuff, it actually has to do with editing the text, like the stuff that ties very closely to the buffer edits themselves is always a little bit scary, because that's the fundamental piece of the editor, and if that gets too out of whack, I'd have to install Emacs again. So hopefully this doesn't break anything too badly. But let's see. In here, I want edit. edit. I can't even remember the names of things. That to do. I started working on something and then decided it was not time yet. Go now. It's on the to-do list though, so it's coming someday. Clean white space? No. Pew space edit. I'm looking for the things that do like batch. Isn't actually what I want, but I need to check something about this system. Token fixing, metadata, cursor fixing. So cursor fixing is exactly the process that I need to look into. And what I'm worried about is that I probably have this code pretty heavily duplicated from here and single edit path. This is where I was looking. Alright. So they both begin a temporary memory. Both set maximum number of cursors. Push an array of cursor indexes. They've got a panel count and a cursor count. They loop across the panels. And for each panel they look at the view. For each view they look at the file. And if we are looking at the same file in that view as the file that got edited, what happens is we tell that file to measure its wraps up again, and then we write yes. So we say here's this information, and this is where I'd have to put in the position of the view. And then we sort the cursors. And then and the reason we sort them is it takes, I don't feel like describing the algorithm. We sort them, we update all their positions, and then we unsort them. And then we use the unsorted versions to get the data back to the original owner with the new positions. And so I just need to insert here and here, and here and here, the concept of, oh, put all of your positions back, but the problem is this code is quite duplicated and I don't like that. But the reason it's duplicated is kind of good is that this one little function here and this one little function here are different functions with very different requirements. This one thing, this one concept is totally different between the two of them. The way you do that step is different. Obviously that's not a good enough reason because I can encapsulate the rest of that into one unit of thought, and then just have a break in the middle, and then another unit of thought down here, right? So it's like two different functions. And really, these should continue to work if I do this. Right. So now it still doesn't totally fix stuff. Cursors per count, start and shift amount, batch size. Yeah, I could just say here's the main difference. There's two types. We'll have a struct that it means one or the other and has a boolean. Okay, alright. Now I've got the plan. Which of these is higher up in the file? 27, 28. So I want to go up here. I want to say internal void file fix file edit cursor fix. And I want a copy of all of the code in here. Right? And then I want this to go away in favor of file cursor. Now obviously that's not going to build because this function here is going to want parameters. So memory option, no, partition part. Sorry about that, I was just anticipating more errors. Layout. We need the layout so we can get all of the views that are relevant. File, we need to know what file has even been edited. General, we need to know the general memory so that we can what? Oh, so that we can rewrap lines. System. Ignoring that, system functions, system file, how about we put it down here? Batch, okay, and that's where we introduce this concept. General edit description. Or we'll call this the cursor fix descript is batch union struct. Alright, this first struct here wants what? Well, let me pop over here to file view. I want to see edit, update, cursors, boom, boom. What are batch and batch size? Batch edit, batch edit, batch size. So right here, first of all up here, cursor fix descriptor. And right here, if descriptor dot is batch, do all this, otherwise, and this is where it gets fun, pop up to, I said it was like 2700, I mean, where it is. Yep. Cursor count. Buffer update cursors, cursor count. Batch start, or that should be, shorten the name to desk. That's easier. Desk.batch, desk.batch size, desk. start desk dot end desk dot shift amount plus desk dot minus desk dot start. And then of course I've skipped over the detail where these are also in desk. What they are: cursor count, cursor count. Actually, that's going to be a bigger pain in the ass. Let's do that, not that way. Start, end, shift amount. Now the error it gives me should just be that star. Don't understand the concept of a batch edit. Batch. Buffer edit. Okay, so batch edit should be an array of buffer edits. Okay. It's not right. I'm a little confused about why you're so okay with identifiers in that function. Oh, cursors is defined right there. Cursor count. Cursor max is defined right there. Cursor count is defined right there. Okay, so that's actually all defined in here, so that's why you're okay with it. Awesome. Awesome. System, part, general. Here's the file, the layout, and the descriptor. So you don't see a descriptor, but that's okay. It's coming. Cursor fix descriptor. Desk. Let's start by clearing all of our desks to 0. And then this one is a batch. The batch is right here. Batch size is right here. And then the same thing for up here. Boom. Boom. This is not a batch. Start equals start. End equals end. Start equals shift amount. Shift amount equals shift amount. Okay. That shouldn't have any changes. Like, that shouldn't fix the view thing. But I want to make sure that it works first, the way it used to work. Put you there and you there. Let me go enter, 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 backspace, copy, paste, 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 undo, undo, undo. Shift clean the white space. Clean the white space, yeah. That appears to work. Alright. Okay. So, to actually do what we want to do now, we just have to use, it's all in one function. So, edit cursor fix. count current. Right, so what we need to do now is look at the file view structure. We want to examine, so scroll x and y is where it literally is, where target x and y is where it wishes it was, and velocity is a variable it uses so that it can do the smoothness. So what we want to do is set scroll x as scroll x y cursor with x current y cursor. What does this? I wonder what scroll y cursor does. Who uses scroll y cursor? Nobody at all. Well, I think what I want to do is implement scroll I. And what we'll do is, over here, when we are fixing cursors, I will write for each view index current view scroll I, right? And then afterwards, current view scroll I equals right in. That gets us our cursor. That gets us that thing. See, the trick is, that's making this a little tricky, is that unlike those cursors, the position of the window isn't always stored as a cursor. And I could make a switch to saying that it is always stored as a cursor. I mean, there is a part of the code where I do that anyway. Draw file loaded, right? Right in here, I say, let's see, scroll x, scroll y, get rendered data. Okay, so that's under buffer, abstract, get render, not test abstract, back to buffer, abstract, this one, test, get rendered data. Right here, it does buffer cursor from wrapped XY or from unwrapped XY, so it's taking those, well, it's taking 0 scroll Y and getting a position in terms of a cursor, right? What we could say is that that cursor is permanently stored, and whenever we render or update it, we update it. And we use it. And then whenever we do this thing here, the other thing I could do is just say, well, that's just so many cursors I'd have to do extra work on. Okay, so the other option is whenever I do this, I get the start cursor. I just need to figure out where the start position is, right? And it seems like the problem I'm going to have is that this is figuring out information for rendering. And what I really want to do is I want to say start cursor. What are you used for besides that? Just that. Right, okay. So full cursor, buffer, get start cursor. Buffer type, buffer. The wraps gets used. Where about that? So that will move out of there and into there. Scroll Y. So we're gonna need scroll Y. Going to need width. We're going to need font height. Going to need to know if it's wrapped. Need to know advanced data. That should be everything we need. Scroll. Alright, so that kind of organizes. It's not pretty looking in that organization, but that organizes it by which things relate to which things. So the start cursor will get passed in now. Although really, such a waste to get the start cursor for a small thing. I'll just leave it because it's a little easier for now. Start cursor with result out the end. Alright, and then, let's see. That should go ahead and break where I use the render call. But now I've got the awesome advantage that I can go full cursor, render cursor equals render cursor equals buffer get start cursor. Take my buffer pointer, pull up my abstract over here. Cuber Caleb, yeah, there'll be modes in 4coder. It's near the top of the list, actually. Let me pull that up. Well, let me pull it up in a sec. I have to get this lined up. So I need this. I need view scroll Y. Need XX. Advanced data. Need 32 line height. This out of here. Alright, so this gets me a render cursor, and then this guy here after, let's see, item, smack, count, port, scroll, whether or not we're wrapped, render cursor. Right, so that actually gets my render data. Now, I wanted to separate those so I could insert something here in the middle. The idea is I want to be able to go view scroll I equals render cursor, right? Function does not take this argument. What does it take? Why don't you tell me what it takes? It takes 1, 2, 3 argument. Right, it's not 6. So which one did I miss? There's your buffer. There's your wraps. There's your scroll width. Wait, I'm not passing you. Wait, I am passing you. Oh, whether or not you're wrapped. Okay, let me put you right there, and I need a copy of this. Now what I should really do is, before doing the pair of those, anything which I'm going to duplicate other than that buffer one, because I'm super lazy about a little thing about that, is, let's see, wraps. Scroll X, use scroll Y. Okay, if that's good. Cursor dot position. Buffer get. Function doesn't take 16 arguments. Told you that. Five, 6. 15 arguments. Right. I ended up saying, oh, we don't need wraps in this one. Psych. Alright. Now to answer Cuber's question, first of all, yes, you can see pretty high on the list is states in command map, and states basically means there's two different types of states. There's Emacs style submaps, and there's the Vim style modes, and I'm going to support both of them. That will be customizable through a pretty simple API on custom as soon as I add it. You can see that that comes right after text links, which is the basic primitive you need for jump to error and things like that. And like if you also want like a list of all locations of a certain word, you need that kind of thing. Here's before that, I want to do a thing where you can query information out of a buffer, so you can like read the error stream, for example. For that is, oh wait, where is autocomplete is meant to be right. Right there, I think. So all of that's coming, you know, a little bit down the pipe. It's on its way. I think I should really take care of this UI thing soon. It's getting out of control. Insofar as I want to do he's asking about code alignment and like auto indent versus with tabs like here versus other more specified things like when you have a series of equal signs lining up the equal signs. And the answer is I want to have like I want someday to get to the point that it's smart the way like a word processor is smart. You know what I mean? So text editors and code editors all come with the mindset that you're editing text. And word processors, the files they put out aren't even text files, which is not really how far I want to go. But instead, what I want to say is that we have that level of formatting. It's just implicit in the code, the structure of code, right? So that would mean, like, to show you an example of why you actually really need something like this in 4coder. Let's go into basic real quick. So here we have a great example right at the top of this file. This is actually, if you look at it, finishing up that if there. And if I go there, that's where it goes by auto tab. If I like try to line it up with the D, you can see you can't ever line it up. With proportional fonts, this is one of the problems you get. You can no longer align things perfectly by spaces. And I really like having the proportional font, but once in a while it bugs me that these things don't line up. So what'll actually happen is someday I'll have the thing that like smart word processors have, that spaces are fungible. They can be of lengths other than what they're supposed to be in order to line things up. So yeah, someday it'll have a thing where white space won't kind of become irrelevant, and the only choice you'll make for white space is, do I save with tabs in the white space, or do I save converting all the spaces, right? So that when I have to give this to someone with an editor who cares about that, or if I have to go to an editor that's not 4coder for whatever reason, then I can get the kind of space or tab that I want at the beginning of my lines. But otherwise, the way white space works would be irrelevant, and that's one of those things that I think is like that would be really fun to work out how you do that. So I feel like someday that's gonna be the case, that like it's gonna be like non like literal characters anymore, especially especially when it comes to white space. I don't think literally handling white space characters makes any sense, because all languages, unless you're in Python, so like 4coder and Python are probably a bad cross for a bunch of reasons. But other than that, you know, as long as we don't have any more white space oriented languages come about, I think that was a pretty good bet that we should work on that. So anyway, almost done with this thing now. So let's see. File view. Right now, Caleb, you can set text to auto-wrap if you want. It auto-wraps at the character level, which is pretty lame. Again, I don't feel like doing anything smarter with auto-wrap until I start working on the white space stuff that I was just talking about. So like because where you wrap has a lot to do with where you put spaces and things like that. So I want to work on a way, like come up with that auto code layout thing, and that will take care of wraps. It'll be like, do you want your code to have infinite width, or do you want to wrap it at a certain point, and then the wrapping becomes a part of the uh, the code formatter algorithm. Okay. So we have the ability to update our scroll eye every frame, which is nice. We don't really have to do any extra code like processing work to get that. Ginger Bill, right now, there's nothing you can do for custom highlighting. I mean, that's like a low priority item. It's not on a to-do list right now, but I'll do that someday. I mean, it wouldn't be too hard. I want to have a thing where you can have like lists of things like these to-dos that are special. So you would have like at least the ability to say, if you see this exact sequence of characters under any context, color it and font it this way, right? So you can do stuff like this that for Emacs can do. It wouldn't necessarily be a total solution to lexing for any language because, for example, this is a comment, so this struct word doesn't become orange. It stays blue, and it wouldn't even be that smart because, as you can see, it turns to do's into that so long as they're surrounded by spaces under any context. So it would be I'll have something like this though, but something that can do just arbitrary language lexing, not necessarily for a while. Okay, so what I want to look at is back at when we were fixing cursors. I said write the scroll eye in, and then out the other end, I'm pulling the scroll eye back out. But the scroll eye by itself isn't that useful. What I actually want is, I want a full cursor. I'll just pull up here to the top and say that we'll declare a full cursor, bare cursor, temp cursor. And then what we can do is the temp cursor will be the view find. Oh man, I can't remember these names because I don't code on this part of the stuff very often anymore. Things that return full cursors. Cursor from wrapped XY. Cursor. Okay. Cursor from XY. View, seek X, seek Y, and then it figures out the right one. Awesome. View cursor from view find cursor view cursor from, okay, I can't remember the name of it. Seek X. View compute cursor from XY. Nice. Actually, it's not from XY. Cursor from position is the view cursor from position. What work does this do? Takes in the position. File, looks at the style, gets the flow. And then it calls cursor from position, basically using all of the parameters that it pulled out of the view. Cool. Cursor from view compute cursor from position using this view and this position. We set the temp cursor, and then the idea is look at current view scroll x equals temp cursor dot Oh, unwrapped X. Oh, I know what I have to do. Duh. X, Y. If current view unwrapped lines. All that. Else. All that. Hopefully that's the right idea. I think it's the right idea. The only thing that could go wrong is, really, I don't actually want to change scroll X with this at all, now that I think about it. Yeah. If I'm inserting things at the beginning there, I'm really just talking about changing the Y position of my view. Is Cuber Caleb still here? When I'm done with this, I'll show you exactly what my plan is for the API, and you can then you can truly appreciate what I'm planning. That question you asked earlier in regards to Vim style modes. Boop, 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 boop. Totally doesn't work. That's because I'm not changing the target as well. I should probably say that when I do this, whatever change I apply to the scroll itself, I also want to apply that to the target. Current view target Y equals plus equals this minus this, right? Same thing down here with the wrapped Y. The things might not work quite right if both are if the other one is scrolling at the time, like it might behave strangely then. A little bit, but I don't think you'd be able to notice super detailed because it's really hard to like get that scrolling and then come over here and like I'd have to do boom. I can't see that. Well, I'll do that again. Scroll. Yeah, when that left one is totally stationary, you can't see anything happening over there now. Right? It's solid. Say I'm here, okay. Let's say I'm down here, and this guy goes da 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 da. Can't really see anything. I mean, it jiggles that just a tad if it's not aligned to the lines entirely. Boom. Boom. That. Boom. Boom. Yeah, so I can see it lurch down just a little bit if I do that fast enough. So why is that? Oh, it's because I'm seeing it's trying to scroll smoothly and I'm causing it to leap. When I push boom, I cause it to leap down a little bit more, right? And if it's still, I can't tell the difference. Because the target and the scroll both stay where they are, nothing changes. If it's moving, I can tell the difference, and I wonder why that is. The difference between the two positions hasn't changed at all. Right, the difference from target Y to scroll Y remains the same. Target Y becomes one line lower, but so does scroll Y at the same. So I was going to do with my smoothing algorithm, which if I made it smooth in a smart way, it would only be based on the difference between them, and then it would look like you couldn't tell. And I need to hack that scrolling algorithm a bunch, as one of those to-dos is requiring that of me. But right now, mission accomplished. And just to double check, a little sanity check here, if I take this stuff back out, just want to make sure that I've actually solved the problem, like that I'm right, that I actually did what I think I did. So I'm still going to be whoops, I think I just ran that right at the time that the compiler was writing to it. That's never happened before. To me. Okay. Come down here a ways, and now I start hitting enter. Yes, so that's what used to limit that from becoming problematic, but now the code I've got here just totally prevents that from happening at all. Okay, cool. Alright, so that is my last to-do item that I had on the list today. Now all the easy bugs are gone. I have one new hard bug that I found when I was reading through the emails, and the old hard bugs that are somewhat subtle things. Yes, all of these things are. Some of these relate to. This is the easiest of them, but the other ones, these three relate to issues of low latency work, and this last one is pretty tricky thing of its own. I'm not doing those today. Is the bug when exporting a color scheme it crashes? Yeah, so the color scheme stuff is basically not currently being like I for a little while I was experimenting with it, trying to figure out how to do a file format, and I spent a lot of time trying to keep things backwards compatible because a few people had exported things back when that worked, and I wanted to keep making sure I could convert it in. And at this point, I feel like it's a lost cause, so I'm gonna scrap all the code that relates to importing and exporting and make a new one. For now, that is kind of just like a known, like, let me see if it's actually in here anywhere. Yeah, fix the versioning system for themes, right? So right now it's known that it's just, and it's not considered a bug because I'm just not supporting that old system. It's just broken and ignore that, and someday I'll come out with a system that totally works. But it won't be backwards compatible to old themes if you happen to have the copy of 4coder that could save them. That could export them without screwing up, or import them without screwing up. Then maybe you made one, and it won't work anymore. Sorry about that. But that seems unlikely. Not many people, at least not many people told me they were making color schemes back then, and it hasn't worked for a long time. I don't suspect that there are many color schemes out there that work because of this. But yeah, that's on the to-do list. Alright, I think that's plenty of time for today. So, yeah. Thank you everybody for joining me as I finish this up. I think that is it. The version I have now is the version I'm going to post tomorrow, and it's the version I'm going to switch to permanently. I'm going to make a special copy of it that I can run so that I can build from it and run it myself anytime I want to edit. And that I'll be able to edit 4coder. I'll be able to work on 4coder with 4coder from now on. So it's going to be pretty cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you later.